Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to meet our incredible guest for today's episode of the SMB Spotlight Show. I am thrilled to introduce someone who blends creativity, commitment, and customer care like no one else. A man who's turned unpredictable British weather into a business opportunity, and a brilliant one at that. Please join me in welcoming the hardworking, inventive, and weather-defying founder of Wimba, the one and only Daniel Lomas. As the founder of Wimba, he's built a business that's all about making the outdoors unforgettable. From elegant stretch tents to geodesic igloos that look like they belong in a design magazine, Wimba offers outdoor structures that are eye-catching, sturdy, and most importantly, reliable in rain, wind, or shine. With over 15 years of experience, Daniel and his team have built Wimba on what they proudly call the Wimba way, a commitment to doing things differently. One customer even shared that Daniel delivered and set up a marquee in the middle of a storm, and another compared their service to actual German engineering. That's the level of detail, passion, and care that this team brings to every single job. With over 170 five-star reviews, Wimba has become a trusted name for festivals, family parties, weddings, community events, and everything in between. And while the tents may be temporary, the impact they make is long-standing. So today, we're diving into Daniel's journey, from the early days of figuring it all out to scaling a business that's both high quality and heart-led. We'll talk about weather challenges, wild customer stories, and what it means to work with family. Daniel Lomas, welcome to the SMB Spotlight Show. Daniel, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're more than welcome. Let's start with the personal. Who is Daniel Lomas beyond the business?
So I'm 36 years old, and I live in northwest London with two beautiful kids, my daughter Elena, my son Noah, and my wife Diana. We've lived in London for about 8 years now, but I was born in Somerset.
Okay, I got engaged in Somerset.
Oh, really? So I'm from Yeovil area.
Nice.
And my wife's from Venezuela.
Okay.
And we both met at university when we went to university in Bournemouth. So
wow.
My son's 2, my daughter's 6. So obviously there's some little challenges with their ages, as you can imagine. But yeah, it's great. In terms of family, we love to travel.
Yeah. How do you travel with 2 young kids though?
That's a very good question. We went to Mexico recently, and that was an experience on the long haul flight. But yeah, we do. I mean, you just don't want to pause life just because of kids. We just work our way through it, and yeah, we love traveling. My daughter loves swimming pools. My son loves the beach. So
that's a perfect blend.
yeah. So we're going to Turkey this year, and a cruise as well. So
you're living the best life right now.
It's always good to get out of your shell.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, with lifing, I need to know what led you to entrepreneurship and the event and marquee hire space specifically.
Yeah, there's 2 aspects to that question. There's entrepreneurship and then why Wimba.
Yeah.
So entrepreneurship, I got made redundant twice in my time. So my speciality outside of entrepreneurship, I work in the investment industry.
Okay.
I'm a performance manager, so I deal with analysing performance numbers and data of investments. But in that time, in that career, I got made redundant twice.
Okay.
And the first time was the first time out of uni. Second time was my third job, and it made me realise, because at the time then I had my wife.
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't want to rely on one income.
Yeah.
I didn't want to put the pressure of having one income and relying on one business. So I started thinking of doing a side hustle.
Okay.
As initially a side hustle.
Okay.
And then it grew and grew and grew. Now the other aspect to that is the second part, which is why Wimba.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting story, because it was going back to when I was 20.
Okay.
It technically started when I was 20.
Okay.
Because I love a good party.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And when I was at uni, I was known to be the party planner. And I was planning my big 21st birthday at uni, and we had a uni accommodation, which was a medium-sized house with quite a big garden.
Okay.
And I had about 100 to 150 guests planned for this party.
That's quite a lot for a garden.
But to put this in perspective of my parties, I had a hot tub, I had 2 DJ sets.
Okay, Daniel.
And yeah, so you can see the idea of my parties. But of course, none of that's going to fit in a house.
Yeah.
So I had to utilise the outdoor space. But being a student, I didn't have much budget. I didn't have much money. So I looked out into the market and I looked to hire. Didn't have the money for that because it was just too expensive. So I looked to buy. Again, I didn't have the money. I didn't know where to store it because it was a uni place and we just had little storage. So I was like, well, that's not an option. So I was like, well, I can't afford this. So then I'm really good at due diligence. I'm really good at research and looking. And I looked and found a way to service my requirements. And that's where Wimba was formed, essentially. So that's where, we now sell and hire outdoor structures, meeting all budgets, requirements, people like myself who just wanted a one-off occurrence, didn't have much money and needed a solution. And we're now the only company that I know of in the UK that does DIY marquee hire to save, up to 75% of the cost of marquee hire.
That's incredible, especially something that happened when you were so much younger and it turned from beyond a side hustle to this empire. Yeah,
it started with me buying a couple of marquees and putting them in my cupboard.
Yeah.
In my flat, where my wife and I at the time were renting, we had a couple of marquees in there, and I would sell them. And then when they sold, I would top it up, and then it moved from a cupboard to a room. So I had a room literally stacked up, and until the committee of the complex, the flat complex, complained, so I couldn't use it as a business. And that was only after 5 days, and then I moved into
5 days.
Yeah, and then I moved into a self-storage units local to me. Moved into a bigger unit there, bigger unit, then an outside warehouse, and now I've got a large yard with my own containers, van. I employ as well, and it's got contractors working for me. So it's just how it started from a cupboard to more.
And what do you think 21-year-old Daniel would think now?
Yeah, I mean, why didn't I think of it sooner?
Okay, fair enough.
Because it wasn't, obviously Wimba took time to grow, so I was working aside, and I didn't think of this as a business opportunity. I just saw it as sort of extra money on the side. I just didn't see it as a opportunity to actually build a business. Yeah. And it was only, the last, I would say, 7 years it's really picked up. Yeah. And in terms of what would I say to myself, I'd say, just try to think basic first. Mm-hmm. Think about what, a business is best grown when you have a need or you have a experience or a passion for something that you've not had or been able to find. In my case, affordable solution for outdoor storage or outdoor events. Yeah,
I love it. The tree party girl in me is just like, yeah, man, why didn't I think of this? But the name Wimba, it's got personality, so I need to know, where did it come from?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that. A lot of people actually say to me, Wimba, that's such a cool name. And then they hear our slogan, the Wimba way, which is even better. People are like, I can't get that out of my head. And you said it earlier. So, so Wimba, Wimba is a term used, let's take a step back actually. If you, there's no better way necessary to brand my sort of philosophy as a business than name it after the world's biggest canopy tree. So the Wimba tree is a tree in many native areas, including the Amazon rainforest. Okay. It's known to be over 50 meters in width. If you see the base of the trunks, it's like the size of a house. just the trunk base.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, it's the world's most natural canopy and shelter and protection. And in the Amazon rainforest, natives use it to sort of for shelter and protection, because the actual leaves and the branches are very dense and thick.
Yeah.
But if you see it, it's like this, and then it just reaches out. So that natural protection is what I wanted to get, because Wimba is about bringing life outdoors.
I love that.
And just providing protection against the weather elements.
I honestly, if all businesses had names that had roots like that, and you get roots with the tree, Wimba.
I like it.
The Wimba way.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I mean, because the Wimba way, as you know, is the Disney song, and
which I'm trying so hard not to sing right now.
Yeah, well, you by all means do. But that also brings back the roots of, because it's the tree, it's in the Amazon rainforest, it's native, so it all kind of links in well. Yeah.
I love a linking story. Now, you did mention, technically the first Wimba Way event would have been your 21st birthday. But when you started the business, talk us through the very first setup, how that journey started.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think because the actual hiring of marquees and igloos and stretch tents is relatively new compared to the brand.
Okay.
Because we first started with the selling. So selling is the main part, the bigger part, because obviously we sell all over the UK.
Yeah.
Actually, we sell outside the UK as well, to a certain extent. But it was the selling side where Wimba started.
Okay.
And the big turning point is when I started to manufacture and produce my own products.
Okay.
And bring them and had them readily available. So that was the big turning point, because then I could design and develop the products to what I'm hearing from my customers are their needs and requirements.
And how easy was that manufacturing process? Because to sell something already made is quote unquote quite straightforward, but then to actually manufacture it, it's a whole other ballgame.
Yeah, it is. There's a much more risk.
Yeah.
There's financially it's obviously better for a business.
Yeah.
But there's always challenges with it. I think the biggest would be control of quality.
Okay.
So quality control.
Yeah.
I'm very, the brand Wimba is known, as you can see from our 5-star reviews online. We have over 170 5-star reviews on Google and increasing, and on platforms like eBay, Amazon, and so on. Is because we're very hard on our quality, and we pride ourselves on that, and we have very stringent processes where we sort of do checks and make sure everything passes. But of course, you can control certain things, and especially when you're bringing stuff into the UK, you're not physically there.
Yeah.
So that's quite a challenge, I would say.
And how have you been able to navigate that?
We're able to navigate, outsource to third-party quality control companies, some of the world's biggest, who actually go physically to the locations and do the checks before they get shipped to myself.
Okay.
And obviously when they come, have my own checks as well as a safety blanket. So I think we do well, and I intend to go to China more often, as well, to not only do quality control but also to check for more products. There's a whole range of products that I want to start developing.
Okay.
So it's just it's really time and focus. So I always like to say, do the basics. Focus on the basics, get the foundation.
Yeah.
Once I've got the foundation, I can then start building upon it. And it's that foundation is the hardest thing, I think, because once you've got that running, then everything else is the cherry on the cake, isn't it?
That is really good advice. In terms of expansion, what are you thinking of next?
Well, I've got ranges of marquees. That's, for instance, a theme at the moment for marquees, which is, I don't know where it's come from, but a lot of requirements there's been a lot of clients requiring it, is transparent marquees.
Okay.
Because in the past, people wanted a bit of sort of privacy and then a few windows for lights, but now people like the natural light completely over. So they want a whole transparent one.
To feel like you're proper outdoors, I suppose.
Yeah, so we're developing that. We're also looking to introduce a budget-friendly model of we call it a party tent.
Nice.
A sweet and simple model.
Okay.
Also stretch tents and awnings and like all wild and wacky. But the good thing about development's not necessarily all about what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's about being open-minded to see what's out there.
Yeah.
And these markets abroad, they have a lot of inspiration, and then it's bringing it in and testing it and tweaking it.
Seeing what works.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you tell us 2 stories that encapsulate the Wimba spirit?
The Wimba spirit.
The Wimba way.
Yes. See how many times you can say that.
I know, right?
Well, I've had many instances.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about humans, but generally speaking, I find that humans are there's a lot of last minute organisers about human beings. I don't know what it is, but, and I guess technically speaking, I make money from the weather conditions because it's outdoor, it's outdoor shelter, but how many times, I cannot tell you, I'll be a millionaire if I got money for every time I get this, where someone would like at last minute a structure for their wedding that's in weeks away. Yeah. Like they call me and say, I need it and I need it now. Yeah. Please, I'm freaking out, we've got a wedding. And now there is an element is why didn't they think of that beforehand? But that's fine. We can help you, and that's what we're here. But it's about us being able to sort of do everything we can to get a structure to them the next day or even on the day.
Crazy.
So I think that's a good. We've had so many. I've had one only a couple of weeks ago where they were desperate for it, and another instance is where people they use a structure that's not ours. Yeah. And they put it up the day before their event, and whatever the quality isn't what they expected, and then they're like frantically calling me to us, saying, "Oh, please, can you help us with a structure?" So those 2 examples are how people see our service and how we've managed to give them the Wimba service as a result.
Yeah, that kind of convenience, but the quality, would you say that's what sets you apart? Yeah,
so the slogan that we're saying, the Wimba way, and my brand Wimba, it's all about what makes us different. Yeah. Why is it the Wimba way? Why do we call ourselves Wimba? Why do we say it's always the Wimba way? Yeah. That's because yes, it's about value for money. It's about our 5-star reviews. It's about us being family run. I mean, how many family run businesses do you know these days? Not many. Yeah. It's about customer service. Yeah. It's about value for money. Yeah. We pride ourselves on value for money. We offer price match guarantees because we very pride ourselves of that. And it's just that overall service level that's our customer reviews just don't lie. You just see it for yourself. Yeah.
How do you feel seeing the customer reviews? Do you sit there with a sense of pride, or I knew I was doing well? Like, how do you feel?
It's just reaffirming what you're doing. It's almost like almost like wearing clothing. Yeah. Like it's a bit like that. If you go shopping and you put on a new dress, for instance, you feel good, but then you feel even better when someone says to you, "You look really nice." Yeah. it's a bit like that. You always feel good, but it's always that kind of acknowledgement from others make it extra special, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I love a little compliment. So
do I.
Yeah, I love your top.
Thank you.
So what would you say actually are the 5 things a customer should consider when deciding on which marquee they want?
The most important one is the size.
Okay.
Because ultimately, depending on your requirements, you may have 200 guests to 20 guests. So size is an important factor. Location is the other. So location is the space able to is the venue space big enough for the size you want?
Okay.
Is the ground level? Because most marquees require a level surface, no steps or anything. Okay. And if there is, then you're limited of what type of marquee that you can get. Okay. I think the other is budget, obviously, because we offer various marquees for various budgets, and that's obviously key to consider. Then there's more specification factors. So frame, what sort of frame you want. Okay. Because there are outdoor structures out there that have more sort of budget friendly frames, so they'll have plastic connectors and thin poles, which suits a certain requirement. Or you can have a typical marquee that has solid steel poles.
You're turning me into a marquee expert, by the way.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm learning so much.
Yeah. And then the final is the fabric itself.
Okay.
We spoke earlier about fabric.
PE, PVC.
There you go. You are getting a pro. But PE and PVC, a lot of clients ask us about that. Why should they choose one or the other? Yeah. And that's a key consideration when choosing a marquee, because PE is a cheaper, more affordable. Yeah. But PVC is more premium, more durable. Yeah. It can have fire resistant qualities. Yeah. Give you an idea for the marquees that we sell, PE is 220 grams per square meter. Okay. So if you had to weigh a square meter, how many grams, and it also it gives you an idea of the thickness. Yeah. So 220. PVC is 500. Okay. So you see it's thicker, it's heavier, which just gives it that extra durability for use against weather and so on.
And what would you say are the top 5 considerations when picking marquee size?
Yes, so when considering that, I would say size is about number of guests. Okay. Because number of guests, we always say it's about 10 to 12 square feet if you're factoring in a seated layout. Okay. And 6 to 8 square feet per guest if you're thinking about the standing. Okay. Okay, so that's a key consideration. Factor in how many guests you want, and then work out roughly using those numbers. That will give you the square footage, and then you decide on the size. Venue space as well is the second consideration, because you could all say that you want this size, but if you don't have, if you have a garden that doesn't cater for that size, then you will be limited. So look at that space, and also look at the obstacles that you have in that space, because we have clients that say, yeah, we've got a 8 by 8 meter garden, but they have a massive tree in the middle of it. Yeah. So you've just got to bear that in mind as well. Obviously budget as well, because the larger the budget, the more the bigger sizes you can get. And then weather considerations is the other thing. Okay. Because if you have a large marquee and you have it in the winter, you've got to heat that marquee.
Very true.
So you've got to think about what weather you need to overcome. If it's a windy day, you need to make sure it's properly anchored. If it's rainy on the day, you've got to factor in that all the guests will go inside the marquee. On a sunny day, like we've got a heat wave coming.
Yes, we do, 25 degrees.
Exactly. So in that instance, you would expect that people don't want the sides of a marquee up. They will take the sides down, and people will freely go outside the structure. So you don't need so much space inside. So that's a key consideration. And how many times we've had clients saying, we want to put the sides up, and then they're crammed in because they told us they wanted a certain size, and then that's the consideration. And I'm just trying to remember at the top of my head the fifth of my amazing points, but I just do you know what? I'm not embarrassed that I've got notes.
No, we need them.
This is the Wimba way. This is organisation laid out, highlighted.
I see it.
That's the Wimba way. So I'm not embarrassed by this at all. That was my final point.
Fabulous.
Actually, I'm making sure it was my final point. Is the actual furniture inside.
Okay.
So when you have a wedding, you obviously want seated layout. You want tables and chairs. You want some people want dance floor. They want a DJ set up. They want a bar. All of that takes space. So you've got to factor all of that into your size of a marquee.
Now we're going to go back a little bit. I know you mentioned the ground bar before.
Yes.
What are the benefits of that?
Yeah. So let's just recap on what a ground bar is.
Yes.
And then I can go into that. So a ground bar is a ring that goes around the outside of the structure.
Okay.
It's basically the same bars that you use for the legs and the roof, but it connects all the legs together.
Okay.
So that ring essentially gives it extra stability. Okay. So think of it like a cardboard box. If you have a cardboard box with the top of the cardboard box open, and you put pressure on the sides of the cardboard, it all gets all flimsy, it collapses. But then you seal the top of the cardboard box and you do it, and it's solid. Yeah. Well, not solid because it's cardboard, but it's stronger. Supported, more supported. So that's essentially what a ground bar does. It provides that lower ground support. It also gives extra weight to the lower ground to give it that extra stability against the weather elements. Also, the other key benefit is that you can then use it to attach the side panels to the ground bar. Okay. Now, benefit of that is, so many times clients have said to us when they've used the marquee in the past, they're like, we just don't like the sides flapping, or the wind coming under, or the rain seeping under the sides. Well, our marquees, you always have the option to have a ground bar. Yeah. And all of our sides have eyelets on the bottom where you can attach the ground bar all the way along, so that stops it flapping. Our mud flaps that come with our marquees sit on the outside on the ground, so there's no wind, no rain coming under. And it just looks like more of a premium sort of flush side for the events.
I love that. Would you say, serving the British population, that people getting ground bars and mud flaps are more popular?
Yes, most definitely. But the frustrating thing, I would say, is that people don't know what most people who buy a marquee don't know what a ground bar is, and don't understand the benefits of one. We sell on various platforms I mentioned before, one of which is Amazon. We sell hundreds of our marquees on Amazon, hundreds. And on there, we would put all of our full models. Yeah. And quite often, people jump to the cheapest. Yeah, of course. Right? And then they receive it, and our feet of our marquees come with the ground bar slots. Okay. So if you go for our heavy duty, our first grade, you won't have the ground bar, but you'll have the ground bar feet. Yeah. Now, because people then receive the marquee, and they receive it with these feet that have a slot, they contact saying, where's our ground bar? We want a ground bar. They don't even know what a ground bar is or the benefits, but we want a ground bar. But I can tell you that there are others on these platforms that sell marquees. Yeah. And they sell hundreds of marquees, but theirs don't have ground bars. Yeah. and people don't say anything to them, but it's because we offer that feature, and you can buy it separately, so that's not a problem. You know, they do buy it separately, but it just gives you an idea that a ground bar is a feature that people should have, and the extra money is definitely worth it. But do people know of it? Do people know the benefit? Do people purchase a marquee with that in mind? No, they don't. Not all the time. So that is a bit frustrating, and that's why we offer the feet with the ability to click a ground bar in. Because if we offer one without that feature, then people will have to buy the feet separately. That's ground bar compatible. So it's just given that feature that serves the future need of the client, which we know will come.
Well, hopefully with the explanation today, that hopefully should lead to more people understanding.
I hope so.
Moving on to the business as a whole, what would you say have been some of the toughest challenges you faced as a business owner?
It will be about importing into the UK products, and there's two elements to that, which is trying to get the products in the right quality and that we require, make sure there's no faults and issues when they're coming into the UK. But there's also the lag of receiving the products, given that we need the marquees in our peak season, which is spring, summer, autumn. And the marquees take from ordering to, or not just marquees, all of our products, ordering to receiving, it's about a 3-month lag. So you've got to think a 3-month ahead, and then have the cash flow and the mindset financially to then think, right, I'm going to invest it now, I'm going to receive it here, I need the money here to, and then you're sort of juggling all of those moving parts.
It's a lot. Has anything gone sideways?
Yes. I have in the past had an order which that came, and the roofs of this entire batch were faulty.
How many were in the batch?
Well, thankfully, it was a size that didn't have a great deal. I think it had around 50.
That's still quite a lot.
50 PVC roofs, and unfortunately there was a lot of manufacturing faults with just those roofs, not the other sizes, and it was just one size, and they got discontinued, but and obviously didn't sell them. And then my supplier, we obviously increased the processes, the risk procedures for them to quality control and so on. But it's you've just got to factor that everything can't be perfect in a business, but as long as ultimately, as long as that product doesn't go to a client, that's the main thing. Yes.
And you spoke about peak season being those kind of 6-month window. What does a normal week in peak season look like for you guys?
Yeah, so Mondays and Fridays are our big sort of dispatch days. I actually say Thursday, because you get Monday because you get all of the orders on the weekend. People love to browse.
Of course, free time.
It's probably the busiest day on a Sunday for orders, because people are just like in their pajamas midday on a Sunday, just scrolling. And Mondays is heavily involved in dispatching products, and then Thursday as well, because we get a lot of clients that say we need it for the weekend. So we dispatch it Thursday, and it delivers on Friday. And then also there's the setups. So we 90% of the setups, like hires, require it for the weekend. So on a Friday and a Saturday, we'll be setting up the marquees and taking it down, or igloos or stretch tents, taking it down on a Monday or a Tuesday typically. So usually the midweek is our breathing point to actually get our projects done and sort of do all the sort of enhancing of processes, systems, and so on.
Daniel, I'm going to do a quick fire round with you. Okay?
Intriguing.
3 questions. I want you to answer as quickly as you can off the top of your head.
Okay.
What has been the most stressful job you've pulled off?
We had a hire which was actually a local bishop coming to a local church, and they needed 3 of our biggest structures and all of our tables and chairs at such a short notice. and it was last minute, and we already had lots of things going on, so we had to literally, and I didn't want to turn down the client, so literally arranged, got the labour, went there and set up, but because of access and because of time frames and that, the window was so short, but we managed to achieve it, and we got some great pictures from it, which are on our social media page.
I love that. Okay, number 2. What is your favourite marquee to work with?
Favourite marquee, I would say our commercial 7x14 metre marquee, because because it's the biggest size, you could do a lot with it.
Yeah.
And pictures and with a dance floor in the corner, the bar over here, the tables and chairs, it's less crammed.
Yeah.
With the smaller ones, it's usually, by the time you've got tables and chairs in, it's already enough. So beauty about marquees is it being open, airy, spacious, and that's why I prefer the bigger ones.
And question number 3, tea or coffee?
Neither.
Me too. I don't drink hot drinks.
Do you know what? Actually, you say that, but literally, how many times people have said to me, "You're English, right?"
Yeah.
Well, my wife is Venezuelan, and all her family are Venezuelan. They assume I drink both.
Yeah.
In fact, when I first went there first few times, I used to wake up with a cup of tea and a biscuit at the side of my bedside table, and I was like, I drunk it because I didn't want to feel bad, but and people always say, and then that's there, and then in the UK when people come to me and say, "Oh, do you want tea or coffee?" And I said neither, and they're like, "Who are you?" Like basically, and then and they say, "Well, how do you wake up in the morning?" And my answer is always a good breakfast and some water.
Honestly, I feel like I've met my twin.
I can't leave the house without a good breakfast. I mean, that's my wake up cure for sure.
I love breakfast. I'm not a huge breakfast person, but I'm a huge water person. That is my thing. Maybe with a slice of lemon.
Well, I don't drink. I say I wouldn't drink. I don't drink enough water, really. But I try to drink as much as I can, and if it wasn't for Weetabix, I wouldn't get through my day. Quick, easy, filling, nutritious breakfast.
No, I need some sugar in my Weetabix. But I know we spoke briefly about the future. What type of legacy do you want to leave with Wimba?
I've always pictured Wimba as almost, I want to see it as like the IKEA of outdoor events.
Yeah.
I want to eventually get Wimba to a point where people can go to a one-stop shop for anything event related. They go there and there's everything there. I would like to eventually diversify my products and my service, so it not just do the structures and the bit. It's like I sell, not just hire everything. So that legacy of a one-stop shop, the Wimba way legacy, but never in that legacy lose the family touch. That's important for me.
Why is that important for you?
Because I just think there's just not enough of it. Like how many times I've had clients come to me and just they're so grateful that I'm replying to them. Like it's not like 5 working day replies. Returns take 6 days or something. We're human beings. We're here. We reply to people. We give the customer service that people should be expecting, and we're not outsourcing it to wherever abroad to answer it. It's I think that's very important, and I'm a believer that you treat others as though you want to be treated yourself.
100%.
And that's exactly how I run the business.
Daniel, thank you incredibly for joining us today. What would you say is the biggest takeaway you'd love listeners to leave with today?
Biggest takeaway. Always remember, it's the Wimba way.
Wimba way.
And you've got to try it, right? Go and try it.
Always remember, it's the Wimba way.
There you go. That's the only biggest takeaway from today, because that, as we mentioned before, that slogan, that statement is all about us.
Yeah.
Family run.
Everything.
If you've got an event, if you've got a wedding, a birthday party, a barbecue, a baptism.
Yeah.
If you're an events company, hire company, festival, pub, restaurant, bar, whatever the case, everyone has a requirement for outdoor shelter.
Yeah.
And so just the biggest takeaway is just remember the Wimba way and you'll be sorted.
I want to sing the song, but I'm fighting myself to the very end.
That would be beautiful if you did. I'm no singer, but by all means, please do.
Get the vocals ready. But where can people find you, follow you, connect with you, book your services? How can we make that happen?
Yeah, so on our website, we have a live chat box on our website. We have our contact number, we have our WhatsApp, email. We also are on every single social media platform, so LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, X, YouTube, you name it. I think 7 different social media platforms. So, we're approachable. We're approachable 7 days a week. Everything comes through my phone as well, not just through an inbox.
Yeah.
So if people have a question, we're always available, and I'm, as my wife would say, annoyingly always replying to customers. So that's a unique thing about us. We're family run, so we treat it like a family run business and reply as and when requirements come in.
I love it. I will never forget the Wimba way.
Yeah, I hope you don't.
The Wimba way? No, I got it in there, didn't I? And to our audience, be sure to catch next week's episode. You won't want to miss it. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. and a last minute high five.
We have to keep that in.
Yeah.
I am absolutely thrilled to introduce someone who has worked behind the scenes on some of the most beloved South Asian films of the past decade and is now today stepping boldly into the spotlight with a directorial voice that demands attention. Please join me in welcoming the multi-talented, deeply experienced and cinematic powerhouse Gulshan Singh.
IC9 is my priority as of now. We are trying our level best to bring it to the maximum audience. Yeah. It's not just because it's my film. It's everybody's film. Yeah. It's everybody's issue. Even if you're not an illegal immigrant, still it impacts you. Yeah. Because this subject is something everybody gets impacted every day.